If you're looking for a laugh while cleaning a roof, got to kill some time making windows sublime, you got the right plan with Ryan and Dan. Welcome to the Uncleanables Podcast.
Been and gone. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Uncleanables Podcast. We are here with David. David is from his own company called Red Rose Digital, and he is all about marketing and taking companies and Google and SEO.
Yeah.
How would you kind of narrow it down? And
the problem is that there was a time in your life when it was very easy to advertise. Yeah. You go and put a half page in the yellow pages.
Yeah.
And that was job done.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to worry about, you might stray into another book to experiment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't happen anymore. So like for most businesses, you know, when I was kind of starting in my early part of the career, it was very, very straightforward. We used to do print advertising, we used to go and advertise in a title which is specifically for you, and people who wanted that title would go and buy it, and then essentially that's how you get your leads.
Gotcha.
And then obviously you had your newspaper advertising, which was your branding stuff. Yeah. But, you know, do newspapers even come through the door anymore?
No,
do you know
exactly,
what I mean?
mate,
So for small businesses or any business, it's like, well, where do you even kind of start? So it is a bit of a minefield out there for people, in particular when it comes to how to advertise online. Yeah.
So Red Rose Digital.
Yeah.
What's your goal? What do you do?
Oh, right. Well, it's I want to work with companies who are at a certain stage of their life. So, for instance, they're a generational business, so they've been around for maybe 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And those 30 or 40 years, they've now, you know, the owners are now coming to the end of their tenureship. So they're either reselling it to employees or their kids are going to be taken over, but they're not kids.
That's specifically who you're aiming for?
Well, yeah, because what generally happens is that business has been built on a non-digital platform.
This makes sense.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense.
And what they are going to do, not when they are, so the new people or the kids who are taking over or the new employees who are taking over, they're going to go and do digital advertising.
But they need to know they've got to spend their money with someone, effectively.
Well, it's not about that. It's about knowing how to spend the money and where to start with first, because a lot of agencies out there will just kind of say, yeah, we see you coming. And I can't, you know, I've lost count of how many times I've heard, yeah, we've burnt 60 grand. Imagine burning 60 grand. No, do you know what I mean?
It's hard to crawl out of
that hole,
it's
a bit of a minefield. And then there's a lot of people, and the problem is with a lot of agencies, they will expect you as the end user to tell them what to do. And then if you don't give them a tight enough brief, they don't want to step outside of that brief. So even though they know that brief isn't good enough, it's kind of like, well, this is what the customer told us to do. So we're not going to step outside of that. So they don't use that initiative, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So I've heard that a million times as well. So when you're first coming into digital marketing or any form of online marketing, the reality is unless you're clued up, then you can't brief the people around you.
Yes.
So you're never going to get the best job. So really, my job is to go in and help people navigate that world and make the right decisions within the first couple of years. Yeah.
So go back, Dave, to the beginning. Yeah. How did it all start?
So I actually started working for a bank back in 1997. I was an 18-year-old, left school, and my missus was pregnant at the time, so I needed a job, and just needed to get out there.
Yeah, cool.
So I went there, and then they taught me how to sell using a process.
Okay.
So you break that process down. So you do your fact find, as most people kind of do it. So you go to your customer, tell me what you need.
Yeah. Go back, almost reverse engineering.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So I really understood what that kind of process was. So really, from how many times I need to pick up the phone and if I pick up the phone 20 times a day, then actually that's going to generate me X amount of pounds of revenue.
Yep.
So I got that process down to a T. So I learned that, and then off the back of that, I went to work for Yale at the time, or the Yellow Pages, and then spent 7 years at Yellow Pages working in various different channels.
I can imagine
like that. Yeah.
Yale's actually a really good company to work for.
It's brilliant, yeah.
Is it really?
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
I just have this idea where their budget for their training is just astronomical, and they train you to the hill.
Oh yeah, we were well trained. I think we did 6 weeks of training in a hotel. It was like a bit like a boot camp. So you move away.
But you do 6 weeks of training to ultimately cold call someone and try and sell them on the phone.
No, because they had customers that would repeat every single year. So they'd train you on their products, but then they would train you on their sales process and then how to interact with their customers. And then you had prospecting, but obviously you had people calling in, so you were given leads to a certain degree. So there was a good combination of existing customers and a good combination of...
and you got, from what I can see, you got a couple of awards here as well.
I did all right, I did more than all right.
Did you really?
I did more than all right, yeah. So by the time I was 26, got into national accounts. The average age of somebody in national accounts.
Is that an achievement in itself?
Well, to get into Yale at the time, just to get into the entry level, they interviewed 20 people for every one position. That was just to get in your foot in the lowest paid sales job at Yale. They interviewed 20 people.
Wow.
So got through that process, used my process selling skills, because they were like, this, if you do it this way, you'll be really successful and you make a lot of money. So I was like, all right.
Everyone is in there,
So I just listened and I did it and worked out really well. And then obviously the only problem with that is that they overpaid us. So our market worth versus what was the rest of the world, like there were two different kind of things.
Overpaid you?
Yeah, so we were being paid stupid money because they were a cash rich company at the time.
What was you, and this was when you wasn't 18, 19, you was at the bank for how many years?
I was at the bank I was 23, so I joined Yale when I was 23, so 4.
So you was 24, and if you don't mind me asking, what sort of money was you drawing from
I was doing 100 a year.
What?
Yeah, 100 a year.
100 grand a year?
Yeah,
24?
Yeah.
But that means you walked into that job on 100 grand a year. What did you start?
Their basics were 35 at the time.
What? And you was getting it from the leads coming in?
You were expected to earn 7 grand a quarter. You were expected to earn another 7 grand a quarter on top of that. So you should have been like hitting your target. You should be earning, let's say 60 grand a year. So then anything over that we used to call them overruns.
So where did the money come from? So say a lead goes through. So Yale was a directory.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Yale's a directory. So how much is an advert in the directory?
So at the time, half page off the top of my head, 3.5 grand a year.
And then what was your commission on that?
Oh, do you know what? It was a bit of a complex one because it was like, right, first of all, I'd have 100 customers and my job was to bring back 98% of those customers.
As in they buy next year?
Yeah, they buy next year. So you'd have a 2% loss tolerance essentially. But if I bought back 90% or 98%, and then out of that 98% of customers that I had to bring back, I had to grow 30% of them by, say, 40% of revenue. Yeah. So if we say you had 100 customers, you've got to bring back 98, and those 100 customers were worth a grand each, as an example. You had 98 grand, you had to then grow that by another, you grow that to say 130, 140, and that was your job essentially then. So
it's heavy on the numbers, isn't it?
Oh, big time. Yeah,
it's big time on it.
Yeah, I was out seeing 5 to 7 customers a day.
Good Lord. Right, okay. So you was there, so then how long was you there for?
I stayed there till 2010.
Right.
Which is grand. And then that's when we started to see the decline, because in 2008, obviously we had all the banks go, and that's when I noticed things had changed. So at that point there was a company called, some of your listeners might have heard of it, but it was a company called Creare, Creare, and they were one of the first SEO, paid search and web companies that were all one, because a lot of these companies specialise in one discipline, if that makes sense.
So would paid search be different to SEO, be different to something else?
So
really?
Yeah, so paid search is if you go onto Google ads or you go onto social media ads, we refer to that as paid search, because people are paying, or you're paying for every click that comes in, if that makes sense. And then SEO, or your search engine optimization, that's just
your ranking on Google, isn't it?
That's your ranking on Google, and Bing, don't forget Bing as well, that's a really important one at the moment.
Is that big, is it?
It's in big growth now, Is
it really?
Well, they've got a whole partnership with ChatGPT, if you do the figures on that, you'll start to see that, at one stage, 97% of all traffic went through Google, Then it dropped down to about 92%. I think that figure in the UK is now close to 80% now. Don't quote me on it, but there is Bing has definitely kind of jumped up in that kind of world, and a lot of people discount it. So you don't discount Bing. We can talk about.
Mate, do you remember the days of Ask Jeeves?
I do, mate. Yeah.
I remember him as well.
Yeah.
I remember looking when I was a kid. I went on Ask Jeeves for cinema times.
Oh right,
for a film. How weird is that? Like if you say and it was a butler, wasn't it, holding a tray?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Mate, it was unbelievable.
So that's it. Yeah. So at that point, I decided to set up my own business in 2010. It was.
He was a young man.
Was a young man. Yeah. What was that? 2010. I was 30. Yeah. So I'm 45 now. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. And then it was. Was
it Red Rose Digital?
No, it was Creare Eastern Limited. Because I bought a franchise, and that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I'd ever made. Right. Because you're just paying everybody else. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you're paying the staff, you're paying franchise fees, you're paying the tax man, and then you're looking at the end, you're like,
is that it?
This is too much. So it was it's like looking back on it now, it's a massive education because I learned so much, and I've been able to monetize that knowledge now, but at the time it was probably one of the worst things I ever did. Because we went from Yale, where everything was just cushy, and you get this inflated kind of, I'm brilliant because I'm top of the tree and I'm winning awards. But when you then go to run your own business, it's completely different.
Do you know you say that? So Creare Eastern, and you said it's a learning curve. I think a lot of people, I find it very interesting now. Sometimes you've got to do jobs for free. Yeah. I say for free, but like sometimes the best lessons are not always like hugely rewarding. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to learn things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I've always thought this for a long time. Yeah. One of my jobs I've done was an estate agency.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was on the railway at the time, and I went from, I think I was 19 or 21, and I was on about 45 grand a year. Yeah. Living with your mum, mate, like driving around in an £800 car.
That's it.
45 grand a year. You're like, mate, I was copping
I made it.
I didn't know what I spent my money on, and I took a pay cut, and I went down to I think 18 grand to become an estate agent. Yeah. And I remember my accountant, and he said to me, "Are you all right? Like, as in, like, are they giving you 18 again in cash or something? But what's going on?" And I went, "No, I want to learn." Yeah. And I started effectively from ground zero again because I just wanted the knowledge. But it's interesting you say that.
Oh well, I've done that, but I did it again later on in life. I went to work for an agency, and I took a 50% pay cut because it was all about internal communications.
Yeah, and you wanted to know.
So I spent a year learning about internal communications, and I learned I ended up. I sat in New Scotland Yard with the head of HR there, talking about how they communicate with all of their staff and everything else like that. I've spoken to, I sat with companies like Tate and Lyle, big food manufacturers.
How were they, mate? Sweet?
They were sweet, mate. They were sweet. I worked on internal magazines for Toyota and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm like, just gold dust, and they're paying me as well. I was like,
Was this with, so this wasn't at...
not Creare. So after Creare, so Creare came to a bit of a sticky end because at the time they had a major tax liability, and then they sold the franchise operation to some guy who literally just carved it up like a piece of meat, and
as they do with all big companies.
We were all like, it will cost me more to liquidate than actually pay you what you're due, or less to liquidate. So we've essentially cancelled your contract, and I was just like, what the fuck?
So when they cancel your contract, are you out on the limb?
Yeah, pretty much.
They pull the rug from under.
Yeah, they pull the rug from under us. Yeah.
Mate, they're bastards in big companies, aren't they? They do what they want.
Yeah, and I didn't have the knowledge, but then I kind of thought, well, what could I do with all of this energy? I could go and fight them, and then there was some clause in the contract that said I could only ever sue them for 100 grand.
What age was you? Sorry, so you set up at 30, and how old are you after the rug was pulled?
So that was 2015, 2016. So
5 years later.
Yeah,
so 35.
Yeah.
And then you've gone back with this other company, took a pay cut.
I needed some time out.
Yeah, cool.
So I took some time out, and I went travelling for a little bit. Did a couple of jungle expeditions.
Yeah. Anywhere good?
Guyana, South America.
I bet that was wild.
Oh, it was a great place. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what? Right.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question.
Yeah.
As someone that deals with computers and facts and figures, and spreadsheets and Excel and all the rest of it, right? Yeah. Did you learn any life lessons in the jungle?
If you don't get up on time, you're likely to die, basically. You can't mess around because daylight is between these hours. Yeah, so you have to get your job done in daylight, otherwise.
But have you taken that away from it and you live by it?
I could never get out of bed before, you see.
Oh, really?
Now I'm like, I'm in the jungle. But it's that mindset. So I learned how to get out of bed and be organised and kind of go, right, I have to do the job in between these hours. It's like in the jungle, if you can't do anything at night.
It makes total sense.
There's no light, literally zero light.
It makes total sense.
Yeah, so it's that.
So just before we move on, where are you at night then? Have you got to build a shelter? Have you got a tent or something?
Yeah, no, basically we'd have like so you'd have 2 trees, so you'd pitch out 2 trees, and then you'd have a hammock with a mosquito net, and then you'd tie up.
You don't carry them trees around with you, do you?
The trees? Yeah. No, the trees, yeah. So you'd string them up between 2 trees, you put a basher net over, or basher, or whatever, I can't remember what you call it.
Basher, yeah. It's army.
But because it's for any other reason, because you've got falling debris from
I think really, do you know, I didn't know that until I watched a couple of programs. I'm like, why are you putting that for? It's like these clear skies, and I'm like, no, the bug's dropping on you.
Oh,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So is that what you'd have? And then you'd sleep off the ground or on the ground?
Sleep off the ground always, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah, and we did that, and we had a guy called Ian Craddock who sadly passed away in September. September 2020. Well, it's such a shame really, but he was all about ecotourism and everything in South America and trying to keep oil companies out of these pristine rainforests because, you know, everybody wants.
Oh, are they drilling for oil in the middle of all that beautiful landscape?
They all want to. There's so much oil there. You know, you've got companies just queuing up to.
Have you seen Venezuela, the fighting over there?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it? I was talking on the phone in depth about this. It's I mean, digressing ever so slightly. But the oil reserves in Venezuela, obviously all the higher up governments keep civil war there. Yeah. They want it. They want the unrest, the civil unrest, so then eventually they can anoint someone that they've already backed. Isn't it crazy?
Oh, it's nuts. It's nuts.
When you actually start looking into it, it's horrific.
It is horrific.
What goes on in the world is insane.
It is indeed, yeah. So many contradictions, but that's a conversation for another day. Yeah.
That's when we're on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So essentially, then I came back from the jungle. You know, I did a bit of me. To be honest, it was I needed to take some time out because I was just
mate, you're burnt out after all that. It's crazy.
After that, because I had the career at Yale, so that was the high, and then running my own business was the low, if I'm being completely honest. And so I went back and retrained and took it easy, and you know, just got back into the routine of working again and all that kind of stuff. So it took me a little bit of time just to get back into it, and I had a divorce at the same time, so everything, it was all going off. So then,
blow some steam, mate. You got to blow some steam.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. So then I came back and then got into internal comms. Really learned about that because I didn't know anything about it, and I like being the student. I like going, I don't know anything about it. You know, and forgetting about all of the other things that I've done in life, and totally. Just learning and just do that. And then after a year, a friend of mine who worked for another agency, a construction-centric agency, said they're looking for an account manager. Do you want? Were you interested?
Yeah, would you have?
Oh, yeah. So I went over there and learned loads of cool stuff that I knew about, but I never really knew about. So where I am kind of today, then it's kind of like, well, I've learned all of this stuff. And then it's how do I help other companies? But then there's only one of me, so that I can't really get involved in too much delivery, if that makes sense, because otherwise it's not really my key skill set.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm able to work with companies because a lot of these guys will bring someone in for marketing, and we'll bring in a marketing person. Yeah. And it's normally some person who's not got any real world qualifications, right? But they might have a theory on marketing. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And they just get.
So you could say like fresh out of uni.
Fresh out of uni.
Exactly like that. Yeah.
And they get just drowned with stuff. Oh, we need this and we need this and we need this, and how do we do this? And they're just like, how do I even do that? Yeah. So my job really is to work with those types of companies. They're just coming into existence under a new management. They want to do marketing, they want to invest in that, and they want to grow like a marketing department. So my job really is to help them just build it properly, and that's kind of where I want to try and pitch myself with it. Yeah.
So you said before, so that's kind of brought us up to date, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So you said before that you primarily focus on like a 40-50-year-old business as just being handed over from effectively an old-fashioned advertising to new blood.
Yeah.
What sort of turnover would you expect to walk into?
Well, because I've done some quite in-depth research about this, so I know anywhere between 7 to 10 million is what I thought was my ideal customer, and that's what I kind of wanted to go after, because they've got the want and they've got the budgets to do it and everything else like that. But more and more recently, I've come across some smaller businesses that are actually in a very similar state, if that makes sense.
Okay,
so the circumstances are slightly different, as in, you know, they haven't been around for 30 or 40 years, but they're still making the same wrong decisions at a certain point, because they've grown to a certain
what is that point?
Well, most of them are at the point now where
getting shot a little bit.
Yeah, things are stable for them.
Okay.
So they've plateaued.
So no growth. No growth, no shrinkage.
So they've grown, and then they're kind of plateaued. And they're like, oh, what next?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, how do I get to the next kind of level?
Do you think so? As an expert in like Google and all the rest of it, and the advertising, do you think you can literally run out of talent as just an everyday Joe Blogs that doesn't know about Google? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, let's say you do a DIY, right? You wouldn't take on an extension, would you?
No.
But so in putting it into your language, is it exactly the same? It's like you can be as good as you like at DIY, i.e. you can do a little bit on the computer, but you're never going to tackle what I can do.
Pretty much, 100%.
Yeah,
in the same way that I can't do your job.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You wouldn't even attempt it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, see those shelves in the corner? I didn't put them up.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a dad job, that is.
It's funny when you say like these young, not young kids in particular, but say the inexperienced, they walk in and they get swamped. Yeah. It's interesting because like sometimes you might have like let's take for argument's sake, let's take a single mum, right? She'll have a lot of blue jobs in the house that don't get done and they get built up. So it's exactly the same when a handyman or a builder walks in that house, he's swamped as well. It's just the roles are reversed slightly. Do you see what I mean? You've got a load of handymen in a building, can't do nothing to do with IT. Do you see what I mean?
It is, and that's the thing,
it is. So right, you've walked in. Let's give you an absolute textbook scenario, okay? So 40, 50 years, let's say my dad, 40, 50 years, he's had the business, he's just given it to me, we're turning over 12 million. I'm like, I'll ring you up, Dave, I want to take it to the next level. I've got a budget of, what would you say, $500,000?
We haven't discussed your budget at this stage yet. No, it's too soon.
So I'll say, what can you offer? Where do we go?
Well, the first stage is to really do a bit of a deep dive into what you guys actually want. Now, because bearing in mind, there'll be 3 or 4 of you that are in charge of running a business that size. So you'll have a board, there might be 5 people on it, 3 people on it. We've all got different ideas. So the question is how do you get everybody's engagement from the very beginning? Because the biggest thing that ever holds stuff up for marketing is you're waiting on other people to engage with the content. So we've written a technical piece about this, but 3 of the board are happy with it, 1 person hasn't even read it, and the other person's umming and ahhing about it. Do you see what I mean?
I know exactly.
So you're kind of going, right, how do we get everyone around that board?
That's quite a job in itself,
on the same page. So you sit around with them, you do a bit of a workshop, and you kind of start to extract all of that kind of information, and you're getting everybody's opinion. You're not doing anything at this stage. I'm asking questions.
But surely they'd all just turn and say, we want to get busier.
It goes a lot deeper than that.
Does it?
Oh, of course, When you get everyone around the table and you ask those questions, someone will pipe up and goes, well, how are we going to do that?
I see what you mean.
Or, well, how are we going to do that if that's that? Or, well, that system isn't working. Do you see what I mean? So you're having this...
Oh, I see what you mean.
So you're almost going in and setting off a bit of a grenade and then just watching everybody talk. Because the more information that comes out, then the more you know as a consultant. Because you can kind of go, right, here's going to be my challenges working with this company. Here's all of the strengths with this company.
So you're a consultant as well? I suppose it goes hand in hand really.
It goes hand in hand, So you're kind of finding out as much information, and then once you've got all of the right information and you've got everybody kind of going, that's the route that we want to go down. At that point you then can take it away and then you can write the strategy off that and kind of go, right, what we're going to do, maybe let's talk to some of your customers, get their feedback. Let's talk to people that you didn't do business with as well. Let's get their feedback to why they didn't work for you. And then you can kind of go, so here's our feedback. Here's the board's feedback. This is what your competitors are doing. So all of a sudden, before you've made a single decision, you've got the board on the same page and they're all singing the same tune. You're telling them what their customers and what their competitors are doing. So they're not arguing with you. They're like, oh, okay.
You're educating them at this point.
Like, so for instance, you might have one customer, you need a calculator. It might be just a coverage or a meterage calculator or something else like that, because two of your competitors are doing it. And then everybody's kind of on board with it.
Well, I see what you mean.
Do you see what I mean? So the key is that anytime you start any campaign is to get everybody on board and make sure that they're all kind of happy with
so
that.
So then, okay, so you've walked in, obviously, hypothetically speaking, we're all on board, we want to grow, etc. Whereabouts, do you have like a rule stick saying that for every million over 12 you want to grow, you need to spend X amount, or?
Oh, do you know what? That's a really interesting kind of conversation. So I've had to look into this quite a few times, and generally, if you want to maintain what you're doing, then 5% of your turnover-ish is kind of what you need to be spending on marketing.
On marketing,
Yeah, that's just to maintain what you've got.
And when you say marketing, do you mean broadly across all of the platforms, or do you mean just on Google SEO?
If we say across everything, so like if you say, right, I'm generating 100 customers a year, in order for me to maintain 100 customers a day, I need to spend at least 5% of my turnover on that marketing.
So anything over, you would expect growth. Anything under,
100%. Yeah,
that's it. That's an interesting statistic. That I like that.
Yeah, and if you want to if you want to focus on growth, then it's recommended 12%, that sort of side of things. But when you start, if you're turning over £1 million, and you go into someone and say, well, I need
12%, mate.
I need 12%.
120 grand. Cough it up.
Therefore, they're falling off their chairs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it gives you the opportunity then for kind of growth. But if you're turning over, say, 100 grand, it's not unreasonable to spend 10
do you know what?
grand.
In my head, I went 100 grand and 12 grand. You think, well, I could lose that. Do you know what I mean? But then you think 10 million to 120 grand. Or no, what did we work out? $1 million?
Yeah.
120 grand is quite unbelievable.
Yeah. So like if you're a small business and you do want to grow, you do have to make a provision for marketing. And I'm kind of saying, if you're turning over 100 grand, actually, what's 10 grand going to get you really when you think about it? So it's one of them. So people need to kind of realise that when they are doing marketing, then they do need to. You can't half do it, if that makes sense, and you do have to be in it for the long term as well. So my biggest complaint as working with people is people come to me and ask me for SEO, and I don't take these customers on now because I've learned, but if they'll come to me and say, I want to do SEO but I need it to work.
Well, it don't work. You can't make the phone ring. You can get it up there.
Well, yeah, but getting it up there realistically is going to take 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So if you need a now result, like today, SEO is not the channel for you. That's a long-term investment.
That's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, that's definitely. And if you need to do it, but you need to make provision for it. But it does take time. So if you're in a position where you need leads today, then SEO isn't the route for you today, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You need to go and do something else that will generate you leads now.
You push them where? Maybe like social media?
Yeah, I think for trades now, so for what I've seen is social media seems to be working really well. I've got clients that I literally over the last 6 months, I've noticed a significant increase in what we called organic social. Yeah. So these will be people going on to social media and using Facebook like you would use Google. So they'll go in and search for window cleaning or gutter cleaning in Facebook, and then come up with companies that are around. So we've seen a big increase in that.
Do you know what I've seen? I mean, I shouldn't, but we laugh at it. Like in my family, is like you get these in my I think every area gets them. You get like an area group.
Oh right.
Yeah. So so we've got one for where we live, right? Yeah. It might be like the Chelmsford Chat or something, right? Yeah. And people are going on there and saying like, oh, does anyone know what time Greg shuts in the high street? Yeah. And I think, why didn't you ask Google? Do you know what I mean? Or, do you see what I'm saying? And I just think, why are you, I'd want to actually go directly to the horse's mouth, but I've seen it hundreds of times. Yeah. And I see does anyone know if Tesco's run out of milk? Or is something like that? And you think, how have you not asked Google or rung the store or something like that? Yeah. I've noticed it an awful lot. Like, with obviously people asking for trades, but also just people just looking up silly things.
Information, yeah. We get it here. We get alerts when the traffic's really bad.
Oh, as in people will go on there and just...
People go, oh, just to let you know, traffic's really bad on this road today. It's backed up all the way.
Mate, I don't know, I don't really know what to describe it, but it is like do you know what it's like for me? I feel like I'm in a VR world sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a VR but not seeing it. I'm just like reading about the world outside. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
Sometimes I'm on Facebook or something and I feel like I'm in prison.
Oh, right.
And I'm just like living life vicariously through all these people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It, yeah.
Oh, a sign nearly blew into my car earlier on this road and things like that. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But I find social media now as... I think in the last 3 years, no, I'd probably say in the last 5 years it's unrecognisable.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Agreed, yeah.
But maybe or not, because I'm tackling it from a business head and completely different. But I remember when, because I never had it for a good amount of time, but when I shut it down when I was like 18 or 17, 18, it was completely different to what it is now.
100%,
and it's just adverts after adverts after adverts. And
100%, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think like with your listeners, that I generally believe that a lot of these guys, if they were to post before and after jobs, 2 or 3 times a week, and just, this is what we did, 3-bedroom semi in this area or whatever else like that. From my experience, from what I've seen, those before and afters are critical. Yeah, absolutely critical, because it's aspirational. People will see that and go, I want that.
That's very true.
And I need that. Yeah. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And things with things like gutters, and you've got water pissing over the side and all that. Yeah.
Aspirational is when you look at something and you think, I want that. I want that now. Is that the same as like window shopping and you see a pair of shoes and you go, they're for me.
They're for me.
I love them. That's called aspirational. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I call it aspirational.
Well, it makes sense. Because I've seen some things before, like I don't know, you'll be out shopping, you'll be like, mate, I want that jacket, and then you're sitting there going like, it's 200 quid, and they're like, if you never walked past it, you never would have seen it.
You never would have wanted it.
And now I can't live without it, sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
And we all know we need these services, deep down psychologically, but until it's been pumped into
right in front of your face,
and you've understood that you've got a problem. And I think that's the power of the social media, because my brother was a landscaper and he just did before and after shots. Yeah. And he used to get like he just get loads of calls. All of his leads off that. Didn't do any SEO, didn't do any paid search. Only ever paid. Didn't do anything. Just literally was posting his before and after jobs for patios and stuff like that.
Going back to the SEO. Oh yeah. Just to explain it. So what sort? So let's say hypothetically again, my company's 12 million. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to be, if I'm already on Google, okay, let's say I manufacture door handles. I
can actually answer this question.
Can you? Have you worked with a company? Okay, so door handles. So let's say, well, look, David, I've already got a website. Okay. And you can find me on Google on some page. What would your response be?
Okay, so what?
That's crazy that you work with a company.
Yeah, I know. Well, in that particular instance, I would be like, okay, well, you've got your top level search, which would be door handles. Yeah. All right, so that would be, you'd have a page on your website that would say door handles, and then you'd have different types of door handles. Now, I can't quite recall.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But you could start to kind of go, well, little ones, big
rectangle,
ones,
square,
middle ones. So you then got like a category. So you've got door handles, and you've got square door handles, and then under that, you've actually got the product set. Underneath that, so you'll see all of the equity is kind of going down. Drop down. Yeah. So you're actually trying to optimize yourself at every level.
Okay.
So the bottom level is what will get optimized first. So the product will actually get optimized first. Then your child category, and then you go with your parent category. But most people.
Oh, is that that's how that's called? Yeah. Is that the name of it? Yeah. Child category, parent category.
Yeah, that's it.
So you'd start off optimizing the actual product itself.
Yeah, start there. Yeah.
So
I would anyway. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then obviously you do the one up with the child, and then you do the parent one. Yeah. Okay. So then if someone typed in like big door handles, it'll come up, and then small, like square.
Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and then
because door handles, that's the trophy search.
That's expansive, isn't it?
Everyone wants to come up for the trophy phrase.
It's very expensive.
100%, yeah. And you're always going to struggle with that. Like, I'm working with a particular customer at the moment, and they are, focusing on a particular product set, but the parent category is so aggressive, like it would take us years to get there. And
is it something like common, like you see windows?
Yeah, something like that. And then, but where we've then gone is we've gone product and subcategory, and we've had a lot of success there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because it's easier, because a lot of people will always automatically gravitate towards the biggest phrase, which ultimately we do want to get there, but we do know if we put time into like product and subcategory, then it makes you get quicker returns.
You get quicker. Yeah. There's a great phrase an American guy told me in a gun range in America.
Oh yeah.
And he said, "Aim small, miss small." And it's renowned all over, right?
Yeah.
But I loved it because it's like, instead of going after the big door handles, and you're never ever going to get that.
Yeah.
Why don't you aim for something totally niche?
Yeah.
And it's like, you've aimed small, you miss small. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. But if you've got 500 of those little niche ones,
mate, you've won.
All of a sudden, that's the strategy, isn't it? So how many times can we get you optimized out on Google?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So then the door handles, they might do hinges, they might do square hinges, semicircle hinges, and then you do all of them as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, so a lot of SEO companies will go, "Oh, we'll optimize a page, or we'll do that." Whereas my theory, and again, you have to take this with a pinch of salt, just optimize everything, and work off the basis that you're going to optimize everything, all of the time.
Yeah.
So when you first build your website, is how am I going to optimize this?
Absolutely everything to do with it, just to drive traffic in.
And this is it. And then think about all of those kind of little opportunities. So for your listeners, for instance, what they could do is create some blogs or some guides on how to know, when to get your gutter cleaned, or anything else like that, or the 5 reasons why you should get your gutter cleaned every 6 months.
Right. So let's say I made that on, and I put that on my website. Yeah. Right. So then you optimize it. Yeah. So I don't know anything about SEO. Yeah. Okay. So then, what are you taking from that page, and what are you optimizing?
Well, so that's your title. So as an example, right? So you've got your title, which is let's just say why you should get your gutters cleaned every 6 months, or anything else like that. And then within that, you're breaking it down into further kind of sections.
Okay, like keywords or like paragraphs? Or?
So you've got you'll start off with a H1. So your H1 will be very similar to your title, and then you'll have a paragraph of content which is related to that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and then so Google's looking at that and goes, "Oh, well, here's 5 reasons for that," and then you've then got your title. Now then your H2s, which are kind of further down, and the more kind of areas you have in the blog, then we're looking for more obscure phrases as an example. So why my PVC gutters or my black PVC gutters will need cleaning.
Right, I see what you mean.
And that, I'm probably not using great examples.
No, you are. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's a case of what you're trying to do is come up with different combinations of keywords. So you actually end up being optimized for lots of different things. Some stuff you don't even know you're being optimized for, because Google's making the decision to kind of go, right, well, we'll optimize this piece of content because it covers off X, Y, Z. So who
distinguishes which content you're going to optimize?
Well, this is me. So so essentially, then what I'll do is I'll go in and we'll sit down and then we'll go, right. So we've done our market research, right? We've spoken to our customers, we've seen what our competitors are doing, and we've spoken to the board. So we now have all of this information, right? And then we can go, right, well, in order to optimize you for these phrases, here's the content that we want to produce. And we'll produce a content plan essentially then, and then we'll write the content and then publish the content and then use that as marketing materials kind of later on down the line, if that makes sense.
So ultimately as well though, but like in order for you to kind of optimize things and actually make it work, the bottom line is they have to have the content. If they don't have it, then it's very hard to do so, isn't it?
That's correct, and this is where most businesses fall down.
Oh, they don't have enough content?
Or they don't do it.
Okay.
Because they'll be like, I'll do that.
Oh yeah, in 2 years.
And you're like, literally. I remember working for a guy, built a website, and I think we needed half the content, and I quoted him 500 quid to do the content. And he's like, no, all right. He didn't want to spend the 500 quid to do it. And 2 years later, we still not had it.
And how much does that cost him now?
Oh, exactly.
He lost revenue.
Yeah. So
untold.
Yeah, if you as a small business owner decide you want to do your content, then you're going to be the reason why your project is delayed.
Totally. And makes sense.
Yeah, if you're going to do one thing, let the agency or whoever you're working with, let them take responsibility for the content. You will need to make that content better. So don't get angry with them if it's 75% of the way there. But this is where you should be coming in and critiquing. Do you know what I mean? Opposed to trying to produce, because you're out doing like your day job and doing your quotes, doing all this kind of stuff. So if all you've got to do is come home and read the content and go, look, change this, here's a little bit more of an explanation, then that's the sort of stuff that those guys need to be able to do that.
Makes a lot of
properly.
sense.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah.
So is that, you said you've done work for a company about the door handles?
Oh yeah.
Is that done and dusted now? You're still working with them?
No, that was just in the past. Yeah.
So we use that maybe as a case study?
What, that one? No, I can give you better case studies than that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. So far away. So have you walked into a company then and not transformed it, but where have you picked them up from and where have you dropped them off in terms of increased their revenue or increased customers or?
Yeah, well, I think probably one of my, I can talk about this now because we finished working with them in 2022, but I worked with them from 2012 all the way till 2022 essentially.
So that's obviously a mutual decision to work with them, but would it normally take that long, or can it take that long, or? Well,
if I tell you how we went through the process,
is that long sort of questions?
Yeah, it should do. So we went to see them, and they you guys might know them, but it's a company called Charles Wilson Engineers.
Yeah, the home.
Yeah, CW plant. Yeah. So basically, when I went in there,
is that what that stands for? Charles Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of another Wilson builds homes.
Oh, yeah. That's not them.
Oh, right. Yeah. CW plant. I know CW.
Yeah. So they're fairly extensive and fairly big company, and they were great to work with, to be honest. But we went in and they were like, look, we need a new site essentially.
Website, yeah.
Brand new website, and I think at the time they had maybe 2,000 visits to the site a month, and it was all branded search. People basically
so they have to look up CW plant.
Yeah. So when I used to work for Yale, we used to say you've got two types of users. You've got your known market and your unknown market. So people who are aware of you, who are looking for your telephone number,
known market,
got to service them, and then you've got your unknown market for people who have a need but they don't know who they're looking for, essentially. So with Charles Wilson at the time, it was literally just branded. So all of their search and everything coming through was branded. So we had to kind of go, well, how do we grow this company? And they had something which a lot of companies don't have, as they had locations in lots of different places. So we weren't reliant just on national search, if that makes sense.
Are they nationwide?
They're nationwide, but obviously if I want to advertise for the word plant hire across the entire country, it's
a fortune, number one.
It's just,
and is it impossible, or can it be done?
No, it's just it can, of course it can be done, but it's going to take time.
Yeah.
So in our game, we have to provide results. Because stakeholders in the business, people are like,
see money,
you're spending out this money. It's a new spend as well. Never done it before,
right? Okay,
and stuff like that. So from say 2012 then to 2017, we took the traffic to the site from 2,000 a month to 20,000 a month. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's pretty good. And then we were tracking phone calls as well. Right. So I think at the time. I need to just double check, but I think we were generating about 6,000 leads a month for them across all of their branches.
Good Lord, that's incredible. Yeah. That's a lot.
It was a lot, yeah. And then, like most relationships...
Is that 20 a day?
Yeah. But bear in mind, they had 20 branches.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it's generous, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it, yeah. And I think with a lot of these companies, getting and we used local SEO and category level search engine optimization, because they would have as an example, access equipment, so towers as an example, so they have access equipment, but that's their parent category, and then they would have like single tower, double tower, etc. And they were the child categories, and then the product would sit underneath that.
Right.
So you'd start to optimize the product.
Right.
Yeah,
and
child
then slowly go up, and then go up,
and then go up that way.
So how long does that take you then to do that?
A product, if you do product right, it can be fairly quick, because not a lot of people focus on the product. The subcategories are all right, but the parent categories are what everybody's after. So that they're the ones that would take the longest amount of time. And
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it does make a lot of sense.
But that's obviously because we introduced an e-commerce structure. So the way you will go onto a website and buy anything now, and we've all done it, whether it's Tesco's or anything. Yeah. But that structure,
it's called e-commerce.
Yeah, because that's e-commerce. So when you go into Tesco's website, it's got groceries.
Yeah.
That's the parent.
Yeah. And then the sub.
Bread.
And then what bread you want. Right, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and that's how people are used to buying online now. So when you're planning out your website, it's like, well, logically, how do you offer a comparable online experience?
Well, I just feel like that in a way, that kind of, how would you say it? That almost way of navigating your options is, we've done it for hundreds of years, haven't we? You imagine going into a library, you go fiction, then you might go author.
100%.
And then, do you know what I mean? I feel like it's been like that for, it kind of, Yeah, because the way we used to sell Yale.com when I was at Yale, we used to go in and go, right, when people are looking for a book, they go to Amazon and they type in books. Yeah.
And then they break it down by category.
Yeah.
Fishing books, J.R. Hartley.
Yeah.
And that's how people are like, yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah. It's that logical kind of thing, yeah. But I think now, for small businesses, it's just a case of getting that structure of your website right is so important, and no one puts the time and effort into that. And this is what I'm going back to about when you go to speak to an agency and you're driving the brief, and you're telling them what they want. They will give you what you want, but you're not a marketeer.
Yeah, you actually don't know what you want.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
They need to write the brief and tell you how it's going to work, if that makes sense. Otherwise, you'll be left wanting at the end of that experience, and you'll be blaming them.
And you'll be paying for it,
and you're paying for them, and they're like, well, this is your brief.
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, why didn't you tell me that? You didn't pay me. This is your brief.
How do you price your trade? How do you price it?
So for me,
structure at all?
There's no structure. I go on daily rates.
Just whatever the bills are at the end of the month, and then a bit for me.
Yeah. We've all been there, mate. Yeah. Well, that pays the bills this month. Yeah. I think for me, I've struggled with pricing. I've been up and down, but when I dropped my prices, I literally made less money because I was trying to focus on bringing on more customers. And this is in the days where I needed to sell 5 customers a month. Do you know what I mean? So you drop your prices. But actually now I don't. I keep my prices at a certain amount. And it means I get to work with quality.
Totally.
And then I'm not kind of...
totally, yeah.
Doing people favours, because that's the worst one. And the thing is, if you price it properly, and when stuff goes wrong, you can fix stuff that goes wrong because there's profit in the account.
Totally.
If it's too lean, then you don't want to fix stuff, and that's where the relationship starts to break down and stuff like that. But I charge a day rate, so I know what I charge on a daily basis. I know what I am in comparison to a full service marketing agency and how I can compete with them. So for me, it's all about production now. So it's kind of like, well, how do we get you? If you're spending. So like a credible agency is likely to charge you about £100 an hour to £110 an hour. Yeah, that's, if you're going to a credible agency, that's what you would expect to pay. But then for me, I'm like, well, okay, if we did that for £75 an hour, or we kept your money the same, and then how much more could we get you for that money?
Yeah,
do you see what I mean? Yeah, because I'm not about cutting.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Just offer more service as opposed to...
It's how much value can we add to what it is that you're doing? And I think that's, a lot of people miss out on that. So there's loads of free stuff out there that people can...
Hello there, sorry about that. The camera we was recording on decided it didn't like the extension lead. So we've sorting it out now. We've plugged it into the wall, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Hello everyone, I don't really know what happened there. The camera started playing up. So we've plugged it into a wall. We've just had to move stance, hope you don't mind. But
there you go.
Yeah, I think we should carry on where we was.
Yeah.
We was talking about SEO, obviously.
Yeah.
And we was talking about the company CW plant.
Charles Wilson plant.
Right? Yeah, and you were saying about the breaking the down about how you, when you go shopping at Tesco, etc.
That's correct. Yeah.
The parent, etc.
Yeah.
So over 7-year period.
So we worked with them till 2022, and I think in most instances what happened was they were kind of getting even bigger. I think they were a ginormous company anyway, and they then hired an ex-marketing director from JCB. And generally what happens is when you get someone of those high-level appointments, they have their own team already. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And they were like, thanks very much.
So you just normally go in, just point them in the right direction?
So in that instance, we just worked on their SEO for them and maintained their kind of website, for from say 2012 to 2022, and then after that, then they just went in a different direction. So but we basically got them to about 20,000 a month after about 4 years, I think it was. Yeah.
So in terms of SEO, it's not just a case of you can just pay once, get to the top, and away you go. Is it like a monthly subscription?
Well, I'm gonna cause a
I'm
gonna cause a little bit of a problem with this. What I'm about to say. I think if you do a really good job with on-site SEO and you really do optimize your site from the very beginning, and you are in a niche industry, that will be enough. Really? Oh yeah. 100. Like, there are certain things. Because there are certain professions that just don't invest in marketing. So you've got to just ask yourself, well, if I just build a really good website and it's optimized and the content is correct and we've got the right structure for the website, then actually, and you're in a bit of a niche industry, then the answer is you could actually probably get away with just doing some really good on-site SEO, and you'll then rank, especially locally, and so on and so forth. So I think you can. However, every SEO company will tell you need to carry on doing it, because otherwise, you'll fall off the cliff.
So, you going to the old, going to the funny phrase, you've probably heard it a million times. The best place to hide a body is second page of Google. Have you heard that?
I've not heard that.
So, it's a funny one because it makes sense, because no one goes on the second page of Google. In your expertise, especially in mine, my view is if you're second page of Google, you're history. Right, you might as well be dead. But pardon my cynicism, because no one goes on it. Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this just a massive money race? And ultimately, the one with the most liquid wins. Who can pump the most money into it?
I think you can optimize yourself in a certain way and the right way. So, for instance, if you are a local company, so one of the biggest industries that I did really well in was wood burner installations.
Okay, yeah.
And chimney sweeps.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because no competition.
Yes, I suppose.
Yeah, because they're all...
I suppose with chimney sweeping, but I should imagine with stoves there's quite a lot of competition.
They were intrinsically linked.
Right.
And I remember at one stage I had 3 companies advertised in position 1, 2 and 3 in Milton Keynes.
Oh mate, you were smashing it. All 3 with you?
All 3 with me.
Oh, game over.
So
you've won.
Top. Sort of getting all the traffic between those 3 companies and whatever else like that. So we found that really easy to optimize.
Wasn't that a
conflict of interest?
Yeah, isn't that a conflict of interest?
Someone's going to do it.
Yeah, I suppose. And listen, if you've already got 1 and 2 there, why would third not go with you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't be third when he went with you, but he was third when you left.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, it is a bit of a conflict, but then you become a bit of an expert in that particular niche, so you're able to have very credible conversations with your client and do the right things. And instead of you are competing, but then at the same time, it's a bit like, well, you're just setting yourself apart. But then, as I say, with those particular industries, they ranked really quickly. What they were generating and the average value orders were really, really good. Because stove installation was 1,500 to 2,500.
I was going to say, it's big money, yeah.
So they were making good money from it, and there's plenty of work to go around, really. There's a lot of those guys who are up to capacity anyway, and stuff like that. So I think when it comes to SEO, my advice with SEO is you need to be active, but that means producing regular content. Yeah, so your website is active. You need to make sure that you look credible in the eyes of Google. Okay, so being on sites like Yale.com, having a Google Maps listing, having an Apple Maps listing, all of that kind of stuff. You need to make sure that you've got some sort of a digital footprint. So Google goes, these are real people, they exist, and that's it. So we would look for things like trust signals. So we would look for reviews, as an example. So actually, if you've got reviews across Yale.com, Facebook, Google My Business, Trust a Trader, anything else like that, that's a trust signal. So Google's going to pick that up and go, this website is trusted, So we're going to move you up the rankings, So people are like, oh, well, reviews, is that SEO? Well, actually, it feeds into it. Do you see what I mean? Because Google's looking at that as a trust signal. content, you've got to make sure that your content is your content. It's your original content as well. Don't be copying other people's. That's why we're saying about, well, if you go to an agency and they're offering to do the content, let them do the content because they'll produce it in a way which is kind of unique, and then you have to put your own little kind of stamp on it and stuff like that. Make sure you do something called link building. It's quite a complex. We could have a whole show just on link building, but in the first instance, make sure that you're on things like Google My Business and Yale.com and all of those sorts of things. Because
so Yale's actually inextricably linked really with Google, isn't it?
No, because I know the history of Yale.com. I actually know it quite.
I feel like Google, but it takes a lot of Yale's word for it. Like if you're like obviously advertising with Yale, it's almost like Google will honour that.
That's probably too far. I'm just looking off the reviews.
Oh, pardon me. Okay, right.
So if you
thanks for pulling me up.
No. If you leave review, if you've got a Google, I don't know if they call them BIPs anymore, but it was a business information page, which is what Yale.com would do. So you can go on there, you've got your listing, you can have content on there now and link out to your website, telephone numbers, all that kind of stuff. Then and then there's a review section. So if you get the reviews there, Google picks up on the review part.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but it will also pick up on the reviews from Google My Business,
right?
And Trust the Trader,
pulls them all together,
and it pulls them all together. So that's a really important part of SEO. So for any business, like, especially from a trades business, if you can be out there getting reviews and harvesting reviews,
more important than anything.
So important for your business.
Yeah.
Before and after shots, customer reviews. And they're really the two of the biggest things that you could kind of do. Then, if you can, every month you're publishing a piece of content that people are going to want to read. Yeah. So if you can talk about why you should get your gutters cleaned, or what preventative stuff that you can do, or you can come up with subjects that in your industry actually keep coming up, and you can start to publish content about that, and people will pick that up. But then you're adding new content to your website, and I think that's quite an important thing.
Massively,
because then you can get different combinations of keywords off the back of those, and we refer to it as long tail optimization, really. So you're coming up with unique strings of keywords.
It does make sense. So if I've got this right, so Checkatrade, I don't know if you're familiar. So Checkatrade have actually quite an interesting policy with like let's say me and you are both roofers, yeah. So Checkatrade work by effectively who does the most. Okay, so if obviously the obvious one is if you book in with a job, Checkatrade will just give you a client and they'll give you the telephone number. You obviously do all the parlaying and then you might turn up. Checkatrade will check in with that customer and say, so-and-so, like me or you, accepted the job. Did they turn up and do a good job? They might turn around and say no. I booked him with him, he didn't turn up. Right. Checkatrade will mark you down for that, right? If I go and do the job, but I don't if they don't leave me a review, Checkatrade don't know that. Therefore, I get marked down again. Oh, right. So what you got to do is you have to keep getting reviews, and that keeps you up the top. You also have to update your pictures. And you just have to be active. You just have to check in. Is that if I built a website but don't check in and not active and not publishing, will it eventually slowly drop down?
100%.
Right, so it's exactly the same 100%. Beast.
And that's why SEO companies will always say you've got to continually do it and charge you accordingly. And I think in more, like if you're a plumber as an example, 100% you need to be publishing once a week.
Why have changed? Because there's so much competition, do you reckon?
I think the plumbing industry is probably the most competitive industry. From my personal experience, because you Google the word plumber, Milton Keynes now, you've got 6 or 7 directories that come up. Then you get plumbers listings, and then
so you mean directories in like Yale to come up, Thompson Local will come up?
So now your space,
so that's 6 really is probably 150 before you scroll down.
That's it. So you're competing with directories, and obviously directories have got they've got the content, and that's why Google's kind of putting them forward. So
you could say almost like advertising, if a directory calls you and goes, yeah, but we advertise on Google, it's like, yeah, but you do, but they're going to have to click on that link in order to find me.
Yeah, that's it.
In which case it's almost like, why am I paying you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But with plumbers, as an example, if you went down the route of advertising yourself or optimising yourself as a central heating engineer or boiler maintenance or boiler installation.
Slowly now, it's you're breaking off on your own niche.
Yeah, and it's not, because the trophy word is plumber, because everybody thinks I'm a plumber. Do you see what I mean?
So interesting.
But actually, if you think about how else can you be described?
So interesting.
Yeah, and do you actually take care of all of the long tail stuff and the stuff that you can, I call it low hanging fruit, and you kind of just building up your authority that way. But if you're starting out and you're a brand new business, you need to invest in SEO, but you need to understand that it's going to take a bit of time, and anybody that tells you they can do it in 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
So you said about the 5% of turnover.
Oh yeah.
Is there some sort of a? I suppose that kind of applies. I was going to say, is there like because a lot of people have said to me, funny enough, the fellow I do the podcast with normally, he says you can't half-ass SEO. No. Like if like people put £100 a month into it. Don't you might as well go down the pub with that money.
If anyone rings you and says, I can get you set up with Google for £100, ignore that call.
Really?
I just don't.
So
what would you do for £100?
Well, exactly.
There you go. So and then you got a company saying, I'll get you set up with Google for £100. Long gone.
It's not happening.
Yeah, we used to be able to do that, but not anymore.
So what sort of like I mean, it all depends probably on how many people are in the area and how many people you're competing with. But what would you reckon is like a good budget in order to try and get listen, you ain't going to get to the front of Google, but to be on page one and have a good shot.
Honestly, for me now, if I took on an SEO client, it's a minimum of $500 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
And that would ensure that we're doing some citation link building. We're adding some new content.
What does that mean, citation?
So that's sort of getting you across Yale.com and Thompson's and all that kind of stuff.
Right, okay, but you'd have to have accounts for all them.
Yeah, but they're all free anyway.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
okay.
So you can go onto Yale.com and you can set up a free account and you can have a free business information page. They will try and sell to you. They're on afterwards, so you have to accept that. But most of these directories you can have free listings on. Right. So the idea is to try and set up a bit of a digital footprint on that. And we call that very much like foundation link building. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm maybe mixing up my words there, but like essentially you just want to try and build yourself a bit of a digital foundation.
Yeah, of course,
So you do that. Google My Business is priceless. You cannot, if you haven't got Google My Business, go and get Google My Business.
That's the best one.
It's free.
It's free. Why would you not have it?
And it optimises you and it puts you at the top of Google. It's free.
People pay big money for that and it's for free,
It's for free. And you can run that yourself. It is as simple, you can run that yourself. You don't need somebody to do that. Like, if you are on a bit of a budget, go into Google My Business and set it all up. And there's loads of explaining videos on how to do it online and stuff like that. A new one which has just come out, which I've just been aware of, is local lead services. Okay. It's where you only pay for the phone calls that you get. And that seems to be aimed at just trades as well.
Is that a Google derivative?
It's a Google one, and it's really simple to use, really simple to set up. You can set your own areas. You can pick your classifications.
Not trying to make this a sales. Not trying to make this a sales thing. But if I mean, you said $500 a month. Yeah. So would that like if anyone watching this wanted to reach out, Red Rose Digital, would that be something you could help them with?
Oh yeah. I'd always assess stuff and have a chat with someone and make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. But
But you think for a budget of £500 a month, you're in with a good crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. For sure.
Yeah. You need to. That's a minimum budget, I would say. Yeah. Minimum budget you need to be spending on SEO, because it does take time and it takes content and it takes effort. You know what I mean? And so if you go to an agency and I'm going to pay you £200 a month, then they're not going to do a lot of work. By the time they pick up the phone to you and listen to you complain, because
it will come.
Yeah, it will come. Because that's an hour of account management.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So how have we spent your budget? Oh, we spent.
Yeah, I listened to you on the phone moaning,
Yeah, moaning at me, telling me that you're not getting a return. All right. So if you're going to go down the SEO route, please be patient and understand that it does take time, and you can't always see the output, but eventually you will see the output in leads.
So being someone IT minded like yourself, right? And let's say I've just given you 500 quid and it's a month and we're rolling and it's month one, and you go, right, I'm going to run away now and I'm going to do some tippy tapping, right? It's going to take a couple of months, mate, but bear with me. What takes the time?
So like,
what do you do when I give you the money?
Well, in my strategy is probably different from most, but I kind of tend to do things in my own way.
Yeah, of course, your own way of doing it.
But for me, in the first month, we're setting up all of the tracking. We're making sure that you're on things like Google Search Console, making sure you're on Google My Business, making sure that your analytics is set up, make sure that your forms on your site are working. So tracking is really one of the most important things. So in month one, for me, it's all about setup. So you see a lot of output, and you've got a lot of systems there now, and we can go, right, we've got this tracked and we've got this tracked, and now we benchmarked everything. So month one is all about kind of getting that set up and that benchmark. And then month two, by the time you get to month two, you're ready to start producing the content. And at that point, then you're moving into kind of content production. And then you've got the foundation link building element, or the citation link building.
It's actually a lot of back end work in it.
Loads of and that's what people don't really understand it. And if I say, I've built 5 links for you, what's got to do with me? I'm like, I'm buzzing. And you're like, fucking man's on crack. I'm like, but we've built 5 links. What we have to do from an SEO perspective is you have to build the authority of your website. Whatever way you want to do it, however your process is, you have to make sure that your website is credible, all right? And you do that by having something called a domain authority, and you have to build that domain authority up. And it's a combination of lots of different trust signals, but reviews, content, making sure that you're on other directories, all that kind of stuff are probably 3 of the fundamental things that we would probably do in the first, and making sure all your tracking and everything is set up. So we try and get all of what we call your on-site SEO done and dusted within the first 3 months. So your site is technically as perfect as it can be, it's structured properly, and you've got the right content on there to start attracting the right. And then essentially, if you like fishing, all your rods are in. And then it's about being a little bit patient and a little bit of growth. So you need a minimum of 6 months, like a minimum of 6 months of SEO. So if you've not got 6 months and you can't fund that for 6 months, that's okay, because we've all been there and that's completely normal. You need to take that 500 quid and you need to move into a paid search kind of model,
like a pay-per-click.
Or in trades, I'm recommending like the Facebook stuff. Facebook advertising, because it will give you an instant hit. The problem is with that form, you don't own anything. So you're spending that money, you're generating leads, you turn it off, it stops. There's no residual kind of ongoing.
That's another question I've got. So like if you like £500 a month SEO, let's say someone types in, I don't know, Windy Cleaner in Chelmsford for me, and I'm third. If I stop that with you, naturally, what course does it take?
Well, if all of your on-site SEO is good, and all of you're technically perfect and everything else like that, then you're not going to see a drop for a while, because what will happen is Google's like, this is a credible website, and up until last month they were producing 1 blog a month. Well, they haven't done anything for a while, but nothing changes. What changes around you is other people. And that's the bit that you need to kind of think about.
I have to be overtaken in order to drop down.
Essentially,
Right, I see what you mean.
If you think of it that way, if you've got somebody else who's doing the same things as you, but actually producing more content, and they're building domain authority, then actually they're going to move up and you're going to move down by virtue of there's more activity over there than there is here. Do you see what I mean? So if you think of it that way, so when you stop your SEO, you'll have a period where it will be okay, but then you can't control everything that's going on around you.
No, of course not.
You can't control that environment. One of my other clients, we ranked nationally for how to remove Artex from a ceiling. Have done for 2 years. We didn't even know we were going to rank for that. We just did a guide and whatever else like that. And because we put nothing into it, because we didn't see the value in it.
What sort of trade was he? Plasterer?
But because we saw nothing, because we didn't value that, and the traffic that was bringing in, we didn't protect it, we didn't keep it going, we didn't refresh it, we didn't update it, and where it's gone from top of Google, and we had like something called a featured snippet.
I've seen it.
And the people who were awesome, we were just like, oh, it's great, but it's useless. And now we're looking at it and traffic's down, and we're a bit like, oh, we should have probably protected that.
Yeah, I was going to say, capitalise on it.
But then the gaffer was like, no, I don't want it. And I was like, oh yeah, but it was nice, wasn't it? And stuff like that. So, you have to understand if you do stop working on it, then you need to understand that other people will want that space.
Yeah, agreed.
And you will drop down because other people are going to be doing stuff. And that's nothing wrong with you. It's the activity from others.
Of course it is, you've got to keep up, it makes sense. What, in terms of like, is there like a rule where like, like when you go on Google and there's like, say, let's say there's 10 companies, say hairdressers in the area and there's 10 of them, right? And we've got number 1, 2, 3, all the rest of it down to 10. Is there like a huge price increase between like paying to be at number 2 to first place?
No, there's no.
So that's not pay to win?
No. So like when you're optimizing yourself, you're attempting to get into those first 10 positions, as an example. However, if you look at the Google page, right, you've got all of this, what I would refer to, or what I've heard it being referred to as retail space. So if you go in, you've got paid ads up at the very top, So Google pay per click. So the first 4 are generally sponsored ads. So Google pay per click,
So someone's paid money to have it,
physically paid money.
And it says, doesn't it, on its sponsored?
Yeah. So that is Google paid per click, all right, pay per click, sorry.
I've got to jump in.
Yeah.
That does my head in.
Does it?
Because some of them, I'll type in, where I live, my area, South Woodham, I might say South Woodham plant pot, right? And it will come up there and it'll be like a garden centre in, I don't know, Hull. And it's like, and it says sponsored, and I'm like, mate, like you're wasting your own money.
That's just bad management,
Do you see what I mean? But I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Like at least once a week I see it and I look at my phone and I think, why is he turning up? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember trying to buy a Christmas tree off Facebook once. And then they were like, we don't cover your area. And I was like, well, why are you advertising to me?
Mate, you just throw money away.
Exactly. So, so you've got them. And then normally under that, you've got what's called the map pack. Yep. So that's where all of your...
A map little comes up.
Yeah. And then you've got maybe 3 listings on view there. And then they are the Google My Business. And you've got the name of the business. You've got the number of reviews.
That's it.
The telephone number.
Distance, miles away and all that,
So that's free. That's what you can do today without anybody, As long as you...
I'm on that.
You've got to do it, And it's there. After that then, you can then get featured snippets, So that is where Google's gone into somebody's website and then taken a snippet of that content because they feel like it addresses whatever you've put into the search bar. See what I mean? So that stuff's gold dust, or is it?
Oh, so okay, so now that makes sense why blogs are so important then.
Yeah.
So Google will do that off your own thing. You're not paying to do that.
No. You pay for the content and somebody to write it for you and get it on your website. Then Google goes, right, I'm looking for content. Because you've got to think of Google. Google's a hungry content monster. And any fresh content, it's going to start to produce.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes,
so if you've asked a question into Google, well, my advertisers can answer that. Let's go and search the web and see if we can find some blogs that can answer that question. So all of a sudden now, like, and this is the thing when people are talking about organic SEO, like, you've still not got to the organic listings yet.
No, not at all.
Not at all, So you've got your sponsored ads, you've got your maps.
Do you know I don't get past the maps?
Yeah.
Do you know that? When I Google something, I don't go past the maps.
Yeah.
How mad is that?
Yeah.
That you've just said that.
That's it, So then there's more, because then you've got the image packs as well.
Yeah.
You've got the image packs. Right. Now, and this is a trick, where every time you upload a photo to your website, people aren't really optimizing your photos, so you've got to think about your photos, their content, so you have to optimize those in the same way that you'd optimize a blog, because then what you'll start to do is, like, if somebody puts, like, I don't know, window cleaning or clean gutters, but you've put some really nice photos on there and you've optimized them, then the map pack or the image pack will start to come up, and then there'll be a link to your website with that image in there. Do you see what I mean?
Mate, I know exactly what you've just made. It makes so much sense to me.
And you can do that. So all of this stuff you can do for free. Like, if you know about it, you can do it, but you won't necessarily have the time
to do it. We're still not on the paid.
We're still not on the organics.
Holy shit.
Then the organics come in. So really what you're getting now on page 1 is probably 3 organic listings.
Wow.
3 to 5 maybe.
Yeah.
So then you trip onto page 2.
Do you know that changed in front of my eyes and I didn't even know it changed?
Yeah.
I remember now, the good old days, you type it in and it was just bang.
Yeah.
And it was like that. And then the sponsor would come in. But oh my word.
Yeah. So that's the point. So you got to think, if I'm going onto Google, what assets have I got? Well, I've got blogs, I've got images, I've got my service pages on my website. And, you know, if you've got any kind of brochures or downloads or anything else like that, all of that stuff Google's going to kind of pick up.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Totally.
So from an SEO perspective, this is what I'm saying now. If you have a now need for leads, then probably, and you can't really afford to sustain, you know, a decent amount of money for SEO for, you know, 6 months or so, then actually you have to go down the paid search route, because it will generate your leads today. And then that should help fund your expansion moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, all right, I know my Google ads, ironically now, the profit from that, I can put into my organic stuff and do it properly. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
That, you know, because a lot of people start off with, well, I've started a business and I need leads now.
Yeah.
And then the first question is, how do I get onto Google?
Yeah,
you ain't getting onto Google, mate. You ain't getting on them straight away. And anybody that says that they can is kind of mugging you off a little bit, because they want your business. Whereas I'm a bit like, if you can't afford to invest in that, that's fine. Then go and do some paid search, generate the money
while it's ticking over,
and then come back to me. Do you know what I mean?
Clever.
Yeah,
clever.
Because that's the best way to do it.
Do you think the market share of Google? I know you touched on Bing. Do you think the market share of Google is going to slip again to Facebook?
Well, if you think about it, now this is my opinion. All right, so like, you know, say what you want. I think Google have had a monopoly. And we've now seen their traffic going to Google reduce, by a large amount in comparison to any drop that they've ever had. And that is the advent of AI and ChatGPT. Because Bing, which is obviously Microsoft have 40% share, I think. Again, don't quote me on that figure, in ChatGPT now.
It's Bing Microsoft?
Yeah.
So who's Google?
Google's Google, so Google's there. So you've got Google, and you've got Microsoft, and then Microsoft own Bing, and they have a massive share in ChatGPT.
There you go.
Essentially. So what we've then seen is an influx of people using Bing off the back of the fact that ChatGPT is now associated with it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you look at the dynamics of Microsoft, most businesses will have Outlook and Microsoft. So when you're searching from work, you're actually going through Bing. Yeah. And then you get...
See how it's naughty? See how Microsoft just owns everything?
Yeah, and it's a desktop as well. So you've got to think, if you're at work, who's sitting on a desktop? So you get different demographics. So if you are looking for a particular type of person, I think they've described it more, people who use Bing as more of a white collar versus a blue collar. But predominantly because of their job roles.
Makes sense,
and whatever else like that. So you just need to understand the demographics of it. But you can transfer everything from Google into Bing, like with a click of a button.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So if you set up on Google properly and everything else like that, you can set up a Bing account and you can just import it from Google, and it imports. And then you've got your map listings, you've got your site maps, you've got all that kind of stuff in there as well.
Gotcha.
And you can start picking up leads from Bing. We're starting to see that. I've always pushed Bing because when I worked at Yellow Pages, we obviously had to compete against BT.
Yes, of course you did.
And Thompson's.
And Thompson,
But they were already...
Thompson was the cat, the blue cat, wasn't it? Yeah.
But they were all small directories.
Yeah.
And I used to think, why do people advertise in there?
Yeah.
Because other people aren't advertising in there. That's the point. You have a bigger presence, share of voice in a smaller pond. But it's still a pond, and people are still going to go to that pond. Do you see what I mean? So, so it's stuff like that.
Isn't it crazy how it's just evolving?
Yeah.
Because we're like the first ones to kind of do it, aren't we?
We are.
Like no one's really done this before.
No.
Yeah, it is interesting, I think.
Yeah, and I think with people like myself, because we grew up analogically.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't even grow up with a computer, did you?
No, we didn't have computers, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have any of that, so we had to rely on traditional press.
I think you've adopted it really well.
It's just one of them, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of led me down that route. But I think over when you look back at how simple advertising was versus how complex it is today.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I feel like that people are just going to revert back to a very simple form. Look at the stuff we've talked about today.
I know, yeah. I know. And like,
how do you even put it in?
And that's basic.
Yeah,
that's probably basic. Yeah,
that's just that gets you out of bed.
That's what I mean. Now imagine if I knew your knowledge, the conversation, how it would have gone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I think, almost in a weird way? I find it unfair. Yeah. I find it unfair that Google has this. I know Google's done all the hard work, don't get me wrong, and it's built an amazing search engine. I get that entirely. Yeah. But I can't help but feel it's pay to win, mate.
Yeah, but the other thing is as well, when you look at ChatGPT now, so I'm on, I've paid for something, I don't know what I've even paid for, but I'm on some model where, literally can make me a cup of tea if I want it. Oh yeah, it's nuts. It's advanced reasoning and all sorts of stuff. But it's opened it up to search engines now, so I can go on. Where would I go? I went to Amsterdam the other week, and then I was like, right, can find me X, Y, and Z. I didn't go to Google. I didn't go to social. I went to ChatGPT, and I just pumped it in, and it brought me through loads of listings.
So what did you type in? Find what, like a cafe?
Oh, no, not at all. I went to
How do you spell red light district?
I went to Anne Frank's house actually. You know what I mean? But it was just I was looking for a rave essentially. So I was looking for nightclubs on a Friday night, house music Friday night, Amsterdam.
On ChatGPT?
I couldn't be bothered with Google.
See, how weird is that? And did it get you there?
It got me exactly the listings.
Yeah, really.
And then I verified it through Google. And it was all sound.
But why would you have gone to ChatGPT? That don't make any sense.
Because
to me anyway.
I work on it quite a lot. So I use it, but it can now source me the information that I need, and it brings me the websites that I actually need, opposed to seeing sponsored listings.
Yeah, and junk
and map packs and all that. I was like, what house music is on Friday the 13th of October or whatever the date was. And it brought me back 3 websites.
I think you're bang on with what you just said.
Yeah, that's coming next.
Because if you didn't think Google could be good enough, it's like, no. Because you're right, if I type in rave, I'm going to get a rave that happened last year,
100%.
A stabbing at a rave, a kid overdosed at a rave, and you think, mate, I just want to go here.
I just wanted a house, mate.
Yeah, you are dead right.
I don't want your listeners getting the wrong idea of me, though.
No. I'll tell a funny story about Amsterdam. I was there for a stag do.
Oh, yeah.
Me and this geezer, so I was sick, I had a shocker, I was sick as a dog the first night, I was heaving up and everything. I said to the geezer, there was a group of 16. This fella, I said, he was in my room, I said, I'm shooting off. He went, I'm going as well. Yeah. We're walking, I went, we'll walk through the red light district, as you do.
Yeah.
It's our first night there anyway, so I've picked up a joint and I'm walking through and I've lit it, and it calmed me down, because my guts were horrific. I was chucking up, I was being sick, everything. Oh no. So we're walking through. And obviously I've had a joint, half of it, and I'm like, woo, and you're walking through. And it's like, red light district, obviously we've all seen it before. Yeah. And we've walked down this one road and he was in front of me. And I'm looking in the window thinking, something ain't right. Yeah. Am I hallucinating? Something ain't right. These hands are massive, and the feet are big and all of that. And I'm going through, honestly, I'm going through, and I'm like, mate, I was like, what was all that about? And he was like, it was a load of geezers, mate. We'd gone down the the transsexual bit.
Oh, is there I didn't realise.
We'd gone down it, but they was all blokes dressed up as women. Right, and I'm looking at him thinking, something's not right here. Why are their hands all so big?
We walked down the other day, and then they were just all on their phones in the windows.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It is crazy.
Just like that. And I was like, I'm sure you're supposed to be selling yourself. No, we're not allowed to say that.
No. I found it weird. I went there when I was 18, and it was a lot more fun when I was 18. Yeah. And I went back there as 31, and I'm walking around and I think, you know what, I've definitely got older. I've matured. It's not, the magic ain't there.
No, there was no magic there when I was there the other day.
Do you know what? I'd probably say go as far. I found it mad sleazy.
It wasn't great this time.
Do you know what I mean?
But apart from the red light district, we had a great time because we went to a Slipknot concert.
Oh really?
Yeah. Me and my son, we went.
Are they still going?
It was their 20th anniversary of their first album.
Oh really?
Yeah. Which is great.
It was a wild old band, weren't they?
Yeah, so it was quite funny because my son, he's 23, he'd never been to a gig, like a big gig. He's done little gigs, so this was his first big gig, and he was like, I'm going to do the mosh pit. I was like, yeah, you do the mosh pit.
Oh no, mate, they're full of animals.
Oh, we went into the mosh pit.
Did you?
Yeah, of course we did, yeah.
So do you actually punch people or just push them?
It was more like elbows up,
and you just swing around.
You're swinging around.
What's the goal of it? It's a
bit of a buzz, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, you've had 5 pints.
I've never done one.
You've had 5 pints, and then you just, with a bunch of big ass men, just
all bouncing
off each other. And you got some geezer in a mask singing about God knows what. But it was actually a good fun.
Yeah, I did.
So it was a good experience. experience and stuff like that. But yeah,
I think the best way to describe Slipknot, it's immersive, isn't it?
It's very much immersive.
They're like they've got the masks on and all the rest of it, and you're like, well, like it's not really my type of music.
Nah.
But I get it. Do you know what I mean? They're all dressed up and they look the bee's knees, don't they?
This is it, yeah. But so no, just as I say to everybody, it's just a case of like, if you've got a now need, and I can't stress it enough, SEO is not the route for today. You know, if you don't get frustrated with someone, if you employ them to do SEO,
and it's not working out
2 months in or 8 weeks in or whatever, it just doesn't work like that. Yeah, so from an expectation perspective, make sure you've got the budget to be able to do it, but then at the same time invest in something that can produce you leads today. And right now for trades, I'm putting my money on Facebook and Instagram ads, before and after shots.
That sort of
things like no deposit, all that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff, trust signals and things like that. Make sure you get loads of reviews and stuff like that, and that should get you.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear, for sure.
Definitely.
I think we're probably going to leave it there. I think that's incredible. Do you want to tell everyone how your acting career was going?
My acting career?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, if anyone recognises you, where would they recognise you from?
Oh, I might have been on First Dates.
There you go. You heard it here first. I thought it was on the Undateables. I said the Uncleanables and the Undateables, but I got it wrong.
No, well, I am still single. Maybe that's the next one, isn't it?
Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And remember, everyone, stay cleaning.
Thank you very much.
That's our little catchphrase. Well done, mate. Well done.
Cheers, mate. Oh.